Hey everyone, this is Gwen. Thanks for joining me today on this Christmas DIY video. If you're new, welcome to my channel. Please consider subscribing. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Let's get on with these easy DIYs I have for you using some gingerbread items. And this is going to focus mostly on red and white DIYs. Hope you enjoy. For this first DIY, I'm using one of these Dollar Tree rolling pin looking signs that they had out for fall. And what I did was sanded off the design in the paint. And taking this crimson color by Waverly, I just gave it a good couple coats. And then sped up the drying process using my heat gun. I then took some Snow White chalk paint and painted the handles in the white color, just for some contrast. Now I do decorate with candy cane and gingerbread theme for Christmas, so I thought this would fit in nicely with some cute little gingerbread candy cane vignettes. So I made these vinyl cutouts or decals on my Cricut cutting machine, and it just says North Pole Sweet Shop. And then I'm just going to go ahead and burnish that on to my rolling pin. Now, if you don't have a Cricut cutting machine, you can simply use your own writing using some paint markers, or you can also use stickers like letter stickers that Dollar Tree carries. Or if you have access to a computer, you can also type up your words and then use some Mod Podge to decoupage that onto your rolling pin. There's many different options. So once my decals were on, I used one of these cute little gingerbread felt stickers from Hobby Lobby. And it does have a sticker, an adhesive backing. And what I did was just remove the paper from the section that was actually going to adhere to my little rolling pin. And then I found these cute faux candies from Hobby Lobby, and they were in the craft section. These are just made out of some plastic foam type material. Now here you'll see that I did use hot glue to attach these, but that was a mistake, and you'll see here shortly. Also, I should have waited to attach those candy pieces until I was done with all the details of this rolling pin, like adding this baker's twine to the handles. I should have waited to add those candies so that I wouldn't have to handle that piece so much, which ended up causing the candy pieces to come off. Now, as you may or may not know, hot glue is a quick holding type of glue, and it's perfect for, adhering your projects or your pieces together, but it's not necessarily a good option if you're trying to, have more of a permanent hold. This is where the pieces ended up falling apart, and then I was left with all this dry glue, which I had to sand off and start over. And then I did have to also touch up any paint that I sanded off in the process. So instead of using hot glue, I opted to use some Aleene's tacky glue. You can also use some wood glue or some Type Bond, anything that you have on hand that's more of a permanent type adhesive. And again, I just opted to use some Aleene's tacky glue, which worked out perfectly. But you do have to sort of hold it down into place because it's not fast, drying or quick drying. If you don't, steady your pieces and kind of keep them in that position for a little bit, your pieces may come off or move, and causing them to not dry in the proper position. So you just have to be mindful of that. So I did have to keep checking on it every couple minutes just to make sure that my pieces were still standing upright. So that part was done. I think that came out super cute. Let's move right along to the second DIY. This is another one of those that leans more towards the whimsical gingerbread theme. And I'm taking these Dollar Tree items. Those little wood cutout pieces actually came from Target Dollar Spot last year. They came in a box with different pieces in it. So I'm going to use those up for this DIY. I took one of these cutting board looking signs and just tried my best to remove all that paper. It was a little bit challenging, so I opted to use the backside just for a clean slate. I will also paint the backside of this just for a finished look. You'll see here that I just sped up the drying process and then continued on with painting all my wood pieces. Now in this clip, you see that I am painting this little mug in this brown color, in this, I believe it's nutmeg brown or chestnut brown. But that was an accident. I got sort of carried away. I didn't realize that I wasn't supposed to be painting that little mug. That's supposed to be a different color. So that's why I sort of stopped midway when I was painting that, when I realized, no, that's not the right color. So I went ahead and just finished up with the chestnut brown, and then I proceeded to paint this in the crimson red color because this is what my original plan was. So now that all my pieces are dry, it was time to sort of position these on this cutting board, just kind of getting an idea of how I wanted all my pieces to lay. But before doing so, I went ahead and added some hot glue to the top of that gingerbread, the little hole where like you can put a string through it. I just used some hot glue. And then I used some white puffy paint from Walmart and then just added little designs here and there on this gingerbread, making it look more like an actual gingerbread cookie. I also embellished that little red mug using the puppy paint, making some faux whipped cream. Now I wanted to embellish this cutting board a little bit more. It was looking a little too plain, too stark white. I decided to use a red paint marker and just make some dashes all along the border. And this definitely gave it that little bit of design that it needed. Now, if you wanted to do more of a faux enamel look, you can also take some black paint on a little sponge and sort of drag it along the edges in different areas. You can also distress it using some antique Waverly wax and just sort of rubbing that along the edges. And you can also use an ink pad. So again, you can go in many different directions as far as embellishing your cutting board. Now I wanted to add a little background design to this, so I decided to use some rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. This one is a perfect one. It had like the word coffee on it and little decorative elements like leaves and whatnot. And I decided to use like the word coffee and just use that for my little mug. And then I also used the little leaf embellishments to create like a background. Now, you can also customize your words if you wanted to use like a paint marker and just write it yourself. Like if you wanted it to be, or to say hot cocoa on it, or latte, or anything like that, gingerbread, you can definitely use a paint marker. You can also use stickers, or if you have a Cricut cutting machine, you can make more of a customized word. So I decided to go with this because it was already made for me, and I do love coffee, so why not? I also took another set of rub-on transfers. This one is in the alphabet design. And I chose the words Saint Nick. And then I'm going to be using the word recipes, which also came from the other pack of rub-on transfers. So it's essentially going to say Saint Nick's recipes, as if this was for like a coffee house or some type of, drinking station. So I thought that would be a super cute idea. Again, my words had a lot to do with the amount of letters that I had on hand to create those wordings. So I did play around with different phrases, different words or sentences, but sometimes I was falling short on the different letters that I needed to create those words. So I had just enough of the letters I needed to spell out St. Nick's. So that's why I opted to go with this. And I think it's also a cute idea as well. I decided to take a couple small pieces of scrap fabric and just cut two little strips and do a crisscross fashion, and then taking some jute twine, just knotted that down the middle, just attaching those two strips together. This will essentially create a little ribbon for the gingerbread cookie, and I think that was a nice added touch just for a little bit more of that red color, to sort of tie everything else together. And then I'm just going to hot glue that down over the gingerbread's head. Next, it was time to go ahead and burnish all of my letters and all of these little rub-on transfers to my cutting, to the cutting board once I figured out how I wanted everything to be placed. And it's looking like this. So again, as I always mention in all my videos, I like to lay out all my pieces before actually attaching or adhering anything, because I do change my mind often. So sometimes, I do rearrange my pieces and get different ideas, and I don't always go with the initial thought or idea that I had. And so this is a good way of making sure that you have everything spaced out correctly, as well as the design layout that you want. Not only is this a good way to use up your pieces of rub-on transfers, if you have like a stash like I do, sometimes you have little odds and ends that you want to use up. This is a perfect way to utilize those pieces, just using the different things that's left over. And I think it does add a nice touch to this cutting board because of the lettering and the black color that it has. So here I'm just continuing to hot glue all my pieces down. And I'm also using this cute little peppermint candy that's also from Hobby Lobby. I added a gingham ribbon. This one is from Dollar Tree. I believe it came out around Valentine's Day. And I just made a simple shoestring bow, tied it with a piece of jute string, and then hot glued that down below the handle. And that definitely tied all the reds together and just made this piece look more cohesive. And I like doing that with my DIYs. If I have a certain color in one part, I do like to draw the eyes to other parts of the DIY just to tie in the color and just not have the color centered in one section. So this is coming together nicely. I took a few more of these rub-on transfers and decided to add that to the bottom of the ribbon. And then use a red paint marker to add little red berries throughout in between the leaves, which I think added a nice little touch. Next thing I did was distress over the lettering that said St. Nick's. Since I did have a little bit of a mess up on one of the letters, I decided to just go ahead and distress all of it so that everything is more cohesive and looks like it was intended to be that way. Last but not least, I took some Mod Podge and just sealed this whole project, making sure that my letters didn't come off or any of the paint was sealed into place. And that was it for this DIY. I think it came out super cute, perfect for a hot cocoa or coffee bar, or just anywhere to display in your Christmas vignette, especially if you're decorating with gingerbread. Moving right along to the third and final DIY, I am using one of these styrofoam trees. This one was from a decoration I had before and it just sort of came apart. I just kept the foam or the styrofoam part of it to repurpose, but you can find those at any craft stores or Dollar Tree. So I took this fabric and this red and white checkered or gingham design and just cut strips. After cutting the strips, I also cut them down into little squares. I believe the squares measured about 2.5 by 2.5 if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. You can definitely customize your measurements to your own liking. I just thought that this size was just the right size that I needed to create my fabric tree. So it's probably a good idea to just have all your pieces cut apart already so that you can, do a continuous flow when it comes to attaching all your fabric pieces to your tree. But, do what is easiest for you. I took my scissors and just poked the piece of fabric into the styrofoam. I used a scissor to help me push the pieces of fabric into the styrofoam. And then you're just going to want to work from the bottom up, section by section. So essentially, I did it like one row at a time, making sure to go all around the entire styrofoam and then continue on until I reach the top. Now, I eventually ran out of this fabric. I knew I should have picked up more than one, but I have had this for a while. So I did have to resort to using some white felt. And this is also from Dollar Tree. I removed some of the gingham fabric from different areas and then just added this white felt in those areas that I removed the fabric from, and then just sort of made sure to spread out the white in between different areas so that you don't have like full concentration of just like the white felt or the red, since I was working with limited resources. So that was it for the third DIY. Let's take a final look. Again, these DIYs are leaning more towards red and white decoration, and I love how they came out. I think they're super cute. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I will catch you in my next one. Thanks for watching.